Welcome to Tax Insights, presented by Hawkins Ash CPAs.
Good morning, listeners, and welcome back to Tax Insight here on WOMT Radio. We're talking with Jeff from Hawkins Ash. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning, Terry.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I can't complain. We got a lot to talk about today, so we're just going to jump right into it.
Yeah, because, there's been a lot of talk in Washington about the American Families Plan, and that's being proposed by the Biden administration. In reality, there's parts of that plan that are never going to see the light of day just because there's enough opposition from the Republicans and the moderate Democrats. But there are some that I think probably have headwinds. Today, I want to talk about step-up in basis proposal. As this is something that we talked about in the past, but it's also included now in this proposal from the Biden administration.
So if I remember correctly, this has to do with inheritances. And I've heard that if you receive an inheritance, you will not owe any taxes?
Generally, that's true. So things like cash, investments, real estate, that's true. But if you receive things like IRAs, annuities, or retirement accounts, those can be taxable.
So what is the difference? Why is there a difference in this tax treatment?
Well, in many states, Wisconsin and Minnesota being one of them, there's what's called the step-up in basis. And you get that step-up in basis for assets such as real estate, cash, things like that, but you don't get those for IRAs, annuities, and other retirement accounts.
So remind us again, what is a step-up in basis?
So no matter what the decedent paid for that asset, the new cost ends up being the fair market value at their date of death. So really what happens is if that person would have sold this item a day before they died, they probably would have owed some tax. But if they sell it the day after they pass away, their decedents have no gain. And that no gain is because of the basis step up that they get upon death. Now, some states have only a half a step up. But in general, Wisconsin has the double step up, and that's because we're a community property state. But assets that are classified as income assets, they don't get that same step up. And so anytime that you have that type of asset that you inherit, you're going to pay ordinary income tax on that. And that would be those things like IRAs, annuities, retirement accounts, like I mentioned earlier.
So how will this change under the new Biden proposal?
Well, right now, the step-up in basis is really unlimited. Whether a person has $10 million in assets or just has $10 in assets, all of those assets generally receive a step-up to the person that inherits them, and they will not pay any income tax. But under the Biden proposal, what you'll see is that the step-up is really only going to be now for the first $1 million worth of assets for someone who inherits it that's single, or $2 million for that person that died that's married.
So what happens to the rest then?
Any assets that don't get the step up in basis, they're going to be subject to capital gains tax by the estate. So tax will have to be paid. The beneficiary is still going to get the advantage of that increase in basis, but the increase will not be tax-free like it was in the past.
So would this tax need to be paid only upon death?
Good question. And the answer to that is no. So if a person gives a really large gift, this may also trigger that tax that's in this proposal. This is more complicated, but just want to let you know that there is some potential complications for someone to pay capital gains tax on donated property, which was also not the case in the past.
So are there any exceptions?
There are. So there's an exception proposed for family-owned businesses. They don't have to pay any tax until the business or the farm is sold to an unrelated person or no longer operates. Now, if you think about this, that makes sense because let's say that all the person's wealth is really tied up in their business. How would they pay that tax without having to sell?
Good point. Jeff, a lot of good information each and every week here in Tax Insight. How do listeners connect with the team at Hawkins Ash?
I would go to our website, which is hawkinsashcpas.com. Follow us on Facebook or like us on Twitter, or the other way around.
Absolutely. Jeff, we'll talk to you next week.
This has been Tax Insights, presented by Hawkins Ash CPAs. Learn more online at HawkinsAshCPAs.com. Hawkins Ash CPAs. Part of your business, part of your life.